Hey everybody, Rhadamant here. Welcome to episode 2 of Endzone, A World Apart. And terrestrial radiation is none, but soil dryness, it's pretty dry out here. Thankfully, I have a nice surplus of food, so there's no imminent starvation or anything like that going on. I'm going to raise the volume just a little bit. It's one of my, it's a game soundtrack that I particularly like, I'll put it that way. Alright, also, I think we are going to need a cemetery soon. So I am going to, on the back burners, set up a cemetery maybe over here. No, I don't like that spot. Because I want to be able to use this mountain for resources. I'll put it over there. The backside of this mountain probably is not going to be mined for resources. And I am going to pause that for now, but employ them eventually. Do I have to harvest now, or do they do it automatically? So they just so happened to have a harvest season right before the drought. So I don't really need to do anything because it's already been done. There's no harvest now button here for the cabbages because all the cabbages are basically pulled up out of the field anyway. Only 70% remains. Now, where are my builders? I guess I only have one builder. Can't expect him to do everything. But any second now, I'm going to have Malty, Doreen, Joel, Ava, and Donald enter the workforce. They're also going to want their own homes. And I definitely don't have homes for them to move into. So that's another thing I need to add is yet another set of homes. And if we take a look at the home attractiveness, my homes that I have so far have an attractiveness of 9 because of the beautiful flower beds that I've supplied for them. Keeping them a little bit happier. Alright, here's that builder. Alvaro. I'm watching you. I'm your overseer now. And here, as you can see, if he has any badges, or if he has an education, you know, each individual has their own sort of personality. So, for instance, Pilar here has the builder's badge because they've done a lot of predominant work in the builder profession, and they are also educated. Here's another one with builder's badges. There should be a lot of builder's badges in the community because I've had a lot of builders, of course. Alright, gather scrap. Let's move this to over there. And there's still plenty of wood here to be gathered. I'm really ready for them to enter the workforce now. And we're about one season out from the drought. There we go. 2 just entered the workforce. Oh, 2 more. So I am employing more builders. Employ all but one as a builder. Oh, there's another one. So yeah, that was the baby boom of the initial colonists with their children growing up. I do have a homeless shortage. They, generally speaking, can handle a little bit of homelessness short term, so I don't need to immediately resolve it. But I will want to resolve it sooner or later. And I wonder if I can find any of those children. Yeah, here's Naomi, the youngest of the initial generation who didn't get educated. And I could go through the menus and go to each individual person or whatever, but I actually don't really care. It's just interesting to sort of track them if you want, to see how each generation is better off than the one previous. It's kind of like They Are Billions, but less gloomy. Yeah, and a little bit less cartoony. Not as an insult to They Are Billions, but it's definitely cartoonish, which I think is a great benefit because of how much UI elements are on the screen at a time. It would be really busy if it was high res. All right, so here goes the Forester's Lodge, and one of these two settlers will be employed as a forester, and they're going to be told to cut and reforest. And it would also be really good to collect the scrap here so that there's more space for forestry. And then next up will be the tailor shop and 2 cabins so we can house the new people. It's about to be 3 cabins required because Glory is about to age up as well. Does it have a world map? Sort of. It has the home tile map, much like Surviving the Aftermath, and then it has an exploration mechanic that I'll show a little bit later when I have it unlocked in tech. Alright, there goes Gloria. And the tailor shop has half the cloth needed to build. And then, to make the activated carbon masks, I'm also going to need a charcoal kiln. So charcoal kiln will make charcoal for the masks. So that's the last step of this equation. And I'll put the kiln right back next to the tailor. And the tailor shop is built. I'm not going to employ any tailors yet, because without charcoal for the charcoal masks, or the activated carbon masks, I won't be able to manufacture it anyway. So there's no point in employing tailors just yet. But as soon as the charcoal kiln is built, then I can employ tailors. And the charcoal kiln will use wood to make charcoal, so it's really important for me to get foresting. So I'm going to employ yet another forester, so that the wood amount is not... don't run out. And here we go. We are now in the midst of a drought. So you see that the pond here has dried up. And the fishermen have no fish to fish. The gatherers will very soon have nothing to gather. And the farmers, I'm going to say harvest now, aren't going to have the ability to sow crops. So what I did was I shifted the fishermen out of the fishing realm to have them as a general settler so that they can collect wood and scrap for me. Later on, when you're sort of a late colony, you might not have to do this because you're so well set up that it's not needed to move people around during droughts. You can just keep the fishermen employed as fishermen. But right now, I'm trying to just min-max how much work gets done, so... Alright, the kiln is nearly done. Make sure that my scrapyard has resources in its radius. Actually, scrapyard, because I have a surplus of scrap, I'm going to start scrapping the stuff where the forester works, so that this debris can be pulled away. Laura the Noob, thank you for the resub. My lord, it's already been 13 months? Jeez, time really does fly. It's almost disturbing. And then I'll also set the settlers to start to clear trees out to the cemetery. And there we go, charcoal kiln. And I'm going to hire 2 of my settlers to start making charcoal, which is indicated up here, coal. And that once we have a little bit of a surplus of coal, I'll be able to then start to make the first carbon activated mask. Also keep in mind that there is a limited time that you have to be able to make or fulfill these quests. It's a lot of seasons, so it's pretty generous. So I do have 7.8 more seasons left to be able to make my first piece of protective clothing, which is way longer than I need. And now that my tools have hit 0, the next quest that I'm going to get slapped with inevitably is going to be to make tools. So that's what we'll do next after we make our first carbon mask. Is there a cleaner way? Maybe I'll just do it like that. There we go. A little road to go out to the cemetery. Or dirt path, really, is what it is. There we go. So now I have a little bit of charcoal. And I will employ one of my builders as a tailor. It's going to say that he needs coal, but that's going to resolve really quickly as soon as these charcoal kiln workers deliver their coal to the mounted bus. It's also worth noting that there's logistics in the game so that you can have temporary storerooms to be able to store products locally. And then there's something called a food station, which allows you to deliver food to houses or workplaces from far-flung distances. And then likewise a water station. So if I, for instance, put a water station here, I would need to hire someone who does logistics. And what they would do is... Here, I'll build it, but pause. I would set this up so that its source is this cistern, and they would haul from the cistern to the water point, having this water point be another location where we can withdraw water. So one of the reasons to sort of bunch everything together is so that it's not logistically complicated really early game, and things work efficiently. But later on, you're going to need those logistics to be able to move resources from point A to point B when you have mines that are far-flung, or farms that are far-flung, or something like that. And we'll be out of drought in just a second here. But as you can see, I have 2k food, so it's not like the drought affected my the food in the colony at all. And the tailor is starting to make the activated carbon masks. So as soon as I make 2 masks, I will have fulfilled this task, and I will be given 6 masks as reward. But it's also one of those things that I'm going to constantly have to make masks to protect my citizens from radiation. Another thing that is pending is my need for shelter. So what I'm going to do here is set up housing and go to a shelter instead. And move this shelter here. So that means... Oh, is that shelter too close to the forester? Yeah, it would be too close to the forester. There. Right next to the mounted bus. So building a shelter in order to house people that don't have homes, but they're not going to have the privacy of a cabin. And reroute the roads a little bit. There, nice and clean. Oh, this gathering cabin doesn't have anything to gather anymore. So I can change their workplace, because there's no berries or mushrooms for them to grab. And now that the rains are coming back, I'll be able to employ fishermen again. It will take a moment for the gatherer cabin to actually get berries and mushrooms again. It's not instant right as the rains come back. So you'll see there's a bit of a lag here. But even though there's a lag, I'm going to still put a gatherer in there just to make it easier on myself later on. But as you can see in this work area, there's no yellow because there's no mushrooms or berries in that radius. So here is the activated carbon masks, and it's done. So I'm rewarded 6 activated carbon masks. And I still have notifications about them not having enough protective clothing, but now we are producing it. And I'm going to add another tailor to the tailor shop so that we can get even more masks produced. And at this point, I'm going to switch one of these recyclers over from cloth to metal. And then I'm going to add another recycler in because I am preparing to deal with the tool shortage now. So, updating the goal, prepare for the tool shortage. Wow, I'm having problems typing today. There we go. The workshop is what makes tools. In order to make a workshop, you need metal for it. So that's why I'm having these recyclers switch from cloth to metal, so that we can start to make the metal to make the workshop. And then the tools themselves, of course, require metal as well. The next thing I want to build is the shelter, though. So all the cloth that would have gone to the tailor shop is going to be diverted for the shelter. Not all of it, but most of it. So that we could get the shelter up and remove the homelessness, which is a drain on our happiness here. I want to raise confidence if I can. How are the hotkeys in this game? Pretty good. You know, B for build and what are some of the other hotkeys? It's one of those like muscle memory things, but there's a lot of hotkeys to be able to get through the menus really quickly. I would actually say the UI is really, really good compared to most of the games. All right, I'm going to employ one extra cistern worker to fill the water back up to pre-drought levels. And here we go. They're now complaining about tools, so they want me to produce 3 metal tools, and I'll be given 9 as a reward. And then the number of people without protective clothing down here, it says 12, should be dropping as we manufacture more masks. And that number will go down. Another thing to note is that at your town center, the mounted bus, you can actually tell what people can wear. So I can say, hey, don't use neck scarves and don't use scrap tools by checking these on or off. And they will only use whatever you have checked. So, for instance, if you want people to stop using neck scarves because it doesn't offer enough protection, you can uncheck neck scarf, provided that you have enough masks or full radiation suits for them to survive. So it's a way to micromanage. So there are going to be some quests out there where it's like, you know, have 10 scrap tools stockpiled. And what you could do is you could tell your workshop to then start making scrap tools, but so that the scrap tools aren't used by your colonists, you can remove them on your town center so that they are not, your colonists aren't grabbing the scrap tools that you're using for a quest. So that's another little feature that you can do. And there we go. I have the shelter. This shelter can house up to 25 people, and the homelessness has gone away as a result. Now, if I wanted to, I could say only house the old and infertile in here, and these young adults that all currently exist in the shelter would be prioritized for houses. I don't really have any old adult. I have one old adult in my entire colony, which would be Leon. So prioritizing this for old and infertile isn't really going to do very much. And then what it is going to do is it's going to kick out all the young people and make them homeless anyway. So I'm going to just say all settlers is fine. So William and Leon have been put into this shelter, and young people have replaced them in the cabins. So it has a net positive effect where more people that are childbearing age have been put into the cabins, but now everybody has a home because I set it back up for all settlers. So you can kind of like tinker with it like that if you need to, or if you want to. And the next thing I want to do is build a third recycler so I can get more metals. Do I? I don't have the cemetery yet. I don't think I've had any deaths yet, though. %4% are infertile, but no one has died yet. Still good to get that cemetery up soon. Alright, there we go. Another recycler. Put in a refiner and employ them to do metals. So I have 2 on metals, 1 on cloth. The tailor shop is reporting a deficit of cloth, but that's mostly because 10 of the cloth went to building this shelter, which is why temporarily there was a shortage, but it's a shortage that will be relieved over time. As you can see, they're already making masks, so they're clearly not short of cloth. And now the metal that I have is going to go towards that workshop, and we're also going to put wood and scrap into the cemetery so that we can bury our dead, which is a something needed to keep your confidence up. Because if you don't bury your dead, there will be corpses in the streets, which promotes disease and lowers confidence, which lowers fertility and productivity. So, important. Leaks, thank you for the follow. Welcome to the stream. I'm going to hire yet another water hauler, and I'm going to enable the second jetty. Actually, I'm going to fire that water hauler and put them as a builder temporarily instead, or as a settler, so that I can get the second jetty. So what's going on now is that this jetty really can't support the amount of water haulers that I have, so I need a second jetty so that they can spread out. And then also, I want to build a road here to increase their productivity as well. So now with the 2 jetties, and some of this is just because I have a growing population, so I need to add more water haulers to support. So there we go. Now we have 5 water haulers hauling from 2 jetties and a road to support all of that. And it is warning me that my water reserves are low, which is I sort of noticed before the game warned me. So that's what I'm trying to address now. Another thing I could do is to build a well. So a well is drought resistant because they get their water from deep underground. And I'm going to build a well right here next to the cistern. And then as soon as I resolve the workshop tool shortage, I'm planning on improving the cistern, I think is the next project. So there we go. I have now the workshop, and I'm going to tell them to make metal tools. Metal tools last longer than scrap tools. They have a higher durability. They take longer to manufacture, but not by much. But they do require metal, whereas scrap tools don't require metal. But as long as you have the metal, it's good to make metal tools. I'm also going to build one more refiner here, or recycler rather, because I need to start obtaining plastics in order to increase my cistern. But I'm not going to change the goal just yet because I haven't resolved the lack of metal tools yet. And yes, there is a drought on the horizon by the looks of it. So here is the well, and I just employed a well keeper to operate the well. And that should help to increase my water levels as well. No pun intended. There's another thing that I could build, which is a rain collector, which works by just collecting rainwater, which I could build if I had plastics, but it does require 24 plastics, which is far more than I currently possess. And Hotving, you are correct. We do have a drought on the distant horizon, many seasons out, so it would be good to try to get the cistern filled up. It's heading in the right direction. I was at like upper 400s, and now we're heading towards 700s, so I'm sort of out of the initial water shortage phase, I think. Another thing I'm going to do to make sure that the food stays up to date is I'm going to employ some of the general settlers here as a gatherer, a fisher, and a hunter. And then also, I am going to set up over here an herbalist hut. So an herbalist hut is sort of like the gatherer's hut, but they gather medicines. Oh, I don't want to build it there, though. They gather healing medicinals instead of mushrooms and berries to eat. But at this point, it would be good to get an herbalist hut constructed. And they can share the same forest that a gatherer's hut can. There's no disadvantage. They both like older forests. And that's the prerequisite to having a medical facility which produces medicine. And a medic that treats people for sickness and disease and injuries. My workshop is reporting that they are making tools. Oh yeah, there we go. They're starting to make tools now. Alright, this new recycler, I'm going to employ a refiner there, or a recycler there, to refine plastics. And then I'm going to keep a close eye on my resources up here to address shortages. Cheers. Webster, welcome to your first stream, and also thank you for the follow. Alright, the herbalist hut is all set up. So I'm going to fire one of the builders, employ them as an herbalist. And we have 1/3 of the metal tools needed to resolve this side task. Alright, I am unpausing the cemetery now, because we should start to get our first deaths from old age. We do have some really old people here. William, Leon, and Daniel are very old adults, so they're on their way out. Good to have a cemetery before they pass. ALS Gamer, thank you for the bits. I'm not sure if you've noticed, but in the last miniseries marathon, you didn't have a character, but the ocean was named after you. You were the Lazarus Ocean that we had to cross to leave our devastated nuclear apocalypse planet. Speaking of which, but thank you for the bits. You are way too kind, and hope all is well with you. And I'll catch you in the YouTube comments. Deaths do affect morale, yes. They do affect confidence if they are not buried in a cemetery. So it's really good to have a mortician hired and a cemetery built for when you start to have deaths. Old age deaths aren't going to affect you too quickly because there doesn't tend to be giant groups of people dying all at once. But if you had, let's say, a drought where people dehydrated and died, or a lack of food, a famine, and people died, and a lot of people were dead, they'd be dead in the streets, and that would heavily affect your confidence, and your confidence would tank, and you would go into a death spiral with your colony. So it's really good to have those cemeteries, but it's also probably even better to avoid situations like that where you go into a death spiral. Death spiral bad? Alright, the workshop is up and ready, and they have made the metal tools. So, at this point, I can kind of kick it to you guys of what is next on priority. So, I'll poll you. What should the next goal be? Get a water tower, build a So water. So I'll explain the benefits. A water tower would allow us to use coal to filter the water, to keep radiation out of the water, and it also just stores more water. Alternatively, we could build a forum. A forum is a place where your colonists can offer you tasks to fulfill for some sort of benefit, which is slightly different than a town hall, which we'll get into a little bit later. So a forum is a way to take on more quests. You can think of it that way. Alternatively, we could try to set up an expedition station to scout the nearby area around us and exploit the resources from the ruins around us, or build a research station to use knowledge to unlock additional technologies. That probably... Yeah, no, we could do that. What else is there for us to do? Yeah, I think that's... or just viewer suggestions. If you guys know this game, you can make your own suggestions if that wins. So there you go. Pulls up, and you can pick our next task. Get a water tower, build a forum, build an expedition station, build a research station, or something that you suggest. I think at this point, I have secured the basic level of survival to the point where we can start adding in viewer-driven suggestions. I don't think that this colony is going to collapse in the next, hour or two. Wouldn't be a terrible idea to get a market up. So what a market is it's a place for things needed for your colonists to live or to thrive stored in one area. So I'd like to get like a market maybe in this spot here once this scrap is moved. So maybe I'll move the scrapyard's area of operation to right on that scrap pile so we can get that out. Plastic, metal, cloth. Okay, yeah, we're doing okay. Our tool shortages and our clothing shortages haven't been fully resolved, but they're heading in the right direction, I think. And droughts are coming on the horizon, yeah. I'm going to switch one of the metal recyclers over to a plastic recycler, so we get a little bit more plastic. I'm also going to fire one of the charcoal kiln workers because we have a little bit of an excess of charcoal that we're not really using. So I'd rather have employed as a builder to be able to make the new roads. And if you take a look at the scrap here, they did a pretty good job where this all used to be random scrap, and the scrapyard definitely removed it. So it's a lot more clear now over in this area. And for you first-time viewers, all you have to do is type 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 to vote. And that's something you'll see constantly on my channel, is the ability to provide feedback in that way. Another thing I'd like to do is to get another farm up, just to add yet another rich food source. So over here, let's see. Oh, that's actually one goal that I did not include, which is an irrigation plant. I don't really have the plastic for that, nor do I have the water storage for it, but that would be a good sort of medium-term goal, I think. So another 16 by 8. What's in the way? What? Oh, is it this bulldozer's in the way? Alright, let's try to get rid of that bulldozer then. All right, cemetery is nearly done. If I click on like random people, you can actually see their work paths now, and they're mostly taking the roads. So like taking a look at the scrapyard here, the people that work at the scrapyard pretty much just take the roads to work, which is an indication that my road system is working well. It's giving me the warning that there is an oncoming drought on the horizon. My water is pretty close to max, where the cistern here is topped up, so I'm going to fire one person from it, because there's no more room to store that water. And 2/5 of this bulldozer has been removed, so I'm just hoping to remove the bulldozer fully. Okay, time's up. Goal looks to be build a water tower. So this cistern here, I'm going to upgrade to a water tower, which is going to take wood, scrap, plastic, and coal. I don't yet have the plastic, but I am manufacturing it on 2 of my recyclers, and then the wood and the scrap should be easily supplied. My wood amount is a little low, but not concerningly. One way to raise my wood amount would be for me to delete this gather scrap flag, so that my random people don't gather scrap, and then to set up a gather wood flag. And I'm going to set the gather wood flag up here where I want the farm, so that these trees can get cleared. And then the 9 settlers that I have, which is my unassigned workforce, will be working as tree cutters to supplement the wood loss that I am lacking. So thank you for voting. And you'll see that poll up again soon, once the cistern has been upgraded. So we have already made 11% progress towards it. Is that bulldozer gone? No. 4/5 of it is gone. Do we need new houses soon? My shelter is topped up, so yes. Yes, we do. We either need another shelter or new houses. I am gonna put in another shelter, but the thing about the shelter here, I'll probably put it there, because I don't want to take up the spot for a market. I do want to put the market in maybe here, and I'll pause that for now to reserve the location. It's kind of ugly, but at least I have sort of blocked it out so that it won't get that area won't get filled. Come on, scrapyard people, get rid of this bulldozer. Yeah, thank you. All right, he finally got rid of the bulldozer. I think the gather wood flag might interrupt the farm here. It might actually be in the way. Nope. It's not in the way. Good. So here we go. A cultivated field. And this field is going to be for the other seed that I have, which was zucchini. So we'll have another rich food variety type. Oh, and there we go. We already have a water tower. So in the water tower, as you can see, it can store up to 5,000 water. And then it can also employ twice as many water haulers, which I will put now so that I can fill the water tower as best as I can. And then down here, you can also have filtration. So I can say, hey, start to use coal to actively filter the water. Once we get a weather station through research, there is a lot of other options to be able to control the radiation levels in your colony, but that's a really good one to start. So I have now built the water tower, and I'm filtering the water as well. Okay, new goal already, because we built that really quick. So I can either build a forum for feedback from the settlers, I can build an expedition station, I can build a research station, I can irrigate the farms through this irrigation plant, or viewer suggestions from all of you. All right, there we go. Zucchini. And I think I have just enough time to get one crop yield out of this farm field before the drought hits. So we'll try to hit that and get that sown now so that I get a little bit of food out of that. But I have almost 3k food. I have a lot of stockpiled food, so I'm not too worried about my lack of food. And I am going to switch over one of these recyclers from plastic to cloth because my tailor shop is reporting a lack of cloth, and then also this shelter that I'm building to house people requires cloth. So we have plastic, metal, cloth, cloth. And I'm just starting to get some homelessness here. Just starting to get reported. If you haven't voted yet, please do. It looks like a near tie between expedition and research. If it is a tie, I always have my trusty Oblivion coin to flip to tie break. See if that's necessary. And then the workshop here is reporting a lack of metal. Got it. Water looks pretty good. We're up in the 2.5k range. This water tower is about half full. My coal looks a little low, so I'm going to employ another charcoal kiln burner. Wood looks pretty good, and as does scrap. I'm going to move my wood collection zone to clear these trees on the shoreline to free up this area if I want more water points or fishing. Probably don't, but, you know, if. And the homelessness will be resolved now. So instead of 8 homeless, I have 0. The other thing I'm going to do to promote population growth is to stick the old and fertile in these shelters, which will briefly kick up my homelessness really, really, really high because all the young people will be kicked out of their homes. And then to switch it to all settlers again, just so that young people get prioritized for cabins. That's right, old people. I'm coming for your homes. Gondroval, thank you for the follow, by the way. Okay, that walking path is not that efficient there. So that is maybe a way or a reason to add in some additional roads in and around these facilities. There we go. Oh, and we need a mortician. So, just hired our first mortician. Cool. We take a look at deaths. Really? No deaths yet? Man, we have some really old people living a long time. It looks to me like an expedition station is about to win. You have 10 seconds left to vote, so... you want to tip the scales, go for it. But it's leading by a few. Did this game have any new content recently added? It did. It's a DLC called Distant Places. So Expedition Station. Copy that. Oh. And they want me to build a forum now. They just tasked me with that. Or really, honestly, just reminded me that it would be a good idea to build a forum. But that doesn't necessarily mean I'm required to. There would be a benefit to it, but you guys voted an expedition, so that is what I'm going to do. So the expedition station, I will put... I'll put out near the cemetery, just because it, maybe I'll put it here. That's probably a fine spot. It's large, and it, well, let me turn that around. It's facing the wrong way. There we go. So it needs wood, scrap, metal, plastic, and to clear the building area. And the way this works is you employ scouts to scout out points of interest, and then also the scouts can be employed to make expedition food, which takes food and water from your stockpiles and kind of makes like an MRE, or like packaged survival meals or something like that. And then once you've scouted out an area, you can equip an expedition team to exploit the resources of that point of interest. And expeditions help to unlock technologies, to find new seeds to plant in your farms, to find a lot of resources to supplement your colony with additional tools or clothing or even people. Your expeditions sometimes come back with people. So it's a very interesting game mechanic, and it's very powerful and useful if done well. Oh yeah, baby, look at that water. Look at that water. Alright, I think I just got some deaths here. Natural deaths, but, actually, oh yeah, there we go. You can see some death. 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 Need to move cut timber spot? Do I? No, looks fine. Oh, this cut timber spot. Yeah. You're right about that. Let's go ahead and cut the trees from around the expedition station. Because that's probably where I'll end up putting research once I build research. And I'm also going to move the scrapyard to around here in order to free up some of the land around the expedition station. And I'm going to employ 2 more scrappers and then increase their production max to 1,000. And I'm going to do the same for timber. I'm going to increase that to 1,000. Maybe build 1 more recycler. How many people do I have employed? Yeah, I could build 2 more recyclers. Trying to get more metal and cloth for clothing and tools wouldn't be a terrible idea. But the expedition station... Actually, the expedition station will take a back seat because the new recyclers will help to get the metal that is missing for the expedition station. So it's a chicken and the egg scenario here. I also don't think it would be a terrible idea to add some additional decorations around to try to make this shelter a little nicer. Because if you take a look at the home attractiveness, we have a bunch of 12s and 9s over here, and then a 6 for this shelter. So I'm trying to make that shelter look nicer. Not that it is required. And we're about to enter Drought, but I'm almost topped up with this water tower. So we should, actually I am topped up. So I'm going to reduce it down to 5. Excess workforce. We should be okay. I'll employ 1 extra hunter. And then those refiners will be employed pretty soon. So grab metal and build this one next. We still have some underlying no clothing and no tools, which probably need to be resolved before I really start expeditions, because when you're going on expeditions, you're going to need clothing and tools for your search or expedition parties, and if they don't have clothing and tools, you'll suffer some penalties. So definitely wise to have a surplus of that stuff before you go out into the world, or you will come back dead from your expeditions. Puppy treats. Hey, buddy. Here you go. So taking a look at the radiation, still pretty low. So the fact that I don't have protective clothing doesn't really matter because there's not a lot of ambient radiation, which is good. My schools are still training for productivity, and my expedition station is nearly built. Nearly built. I'm going to start to pull you on the next thing. Here are some additional tasks. We could build the farm, build a research station, irrigate the farms so that they're protected from droughts, solve tool and clothing shortages, upgrade the town hall from mounted bus to town center, build a market to supply the cabins and shelters with the clothing and food and water that they need, or viewer suggestions from all of you. So let me know what you think I should do. Oh, I'm about to go into the lower bracket of confidence here, I think. I've been teeter-tottering on like the minimum of maximum, so the top threshold but low. But it will vary. As long as I keep it out of the discontent realm, I'll be just fine. And I've been nowhere near discontent. And there we go. We have the expedition station, so I'm going to hire 2 people as... Actually, 3 people as scouts. And the way this works is around the map here, this symbol here is the center of your colony. There are interesting locations to scout out. So I'm going to send 1 scout to this location, 1 scout to this location, which is the 2 closest locations to my initial colony, for them to figure out what there is there and what skills and tools required to exploit those resources. Now that I'm doing that, I'm going to tell my schools to start training for badges so that people can earn badges at a higher rate. And then the last scout is going to be making expedition rations. Expedition rations are food used to go on expeditions, packaged meals and food liquids for the expedition, and you use those to do actions on the expedition. And I'll show you that once I return from the scouts. So if you take a look here, the scouts will physically travel out to these locations, these interesting locations. So one is actually very close. It's just in the woods. Looks like a combine. And it's just south of me, so it should be pretty quick for a scout to get out there. In fact, we can see this guy here is going there now. So the people aren't simulated. They exist. And they walk there and all that. So Ava here is a scout traveling to this combine expedition. And then there's another one going way over here to this combine. Oh, 2 combines. Cool. Thank you for tuning in to Endzone, A World Apart, which originally streamed live on Twitch May 24th. If this game interests you and you'd like to purchase it, I do have an affiliate link in the description of this video. If you have any feedback or questions for me, let me know in the comments below. And if you'd like to chat with me in real time about this or any of my other content, Rhadamant.com or the description of this video have a link to Discord. If you'd like to catch live streams of mine, Rhadamant.com also has my stream schedule and countdown timers to upcoming streams, as does Discord in the events. Thank you so very much for watching. I hope to catch you in next episode or an upcoming stream. Farewell,